From the Aero Sports Tennessee home office along the banks of the Stones River in the heart of Rutherford County, this is the Coach Will Kriesky Show, a weekly showcase of highlights, interviews, and insights from Riverdale head football coach Will Kriesky. Now here's your host and play-by-play voice of the Warriors, Chris Bosen.
Well, welcome to episode 2 of the Coach Will Kriesky Show here on Aero Sports Tennessee. I'm Chris Bosen, your host throughout the 2025 Riverdale Warriors football season for a weekly recap of every Warrior game, complete with highlights, player spotlight, interviews, and insight from the man who's now in his 10th season at Riverdale. That's head coach Will Kriesky, and he's with us now. Coach, it's been less than 24 hours since our premiere episode went out there, but I've already gotten comments back. I'm sure you have as well. It's an exciting new addition, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, it is. You know, I've had some coaches and mentors of mine poke fun at me and pick on me, but and then some teachers talk about some sound and things like that. But no, it's been fun, and it's a good way to get information out to the Warrior community. You know, we talked about on the first episode all the people that's been invested in this program for the last 10 years, and it's just a way to help promote them and help provide a little feedback to what they invest in.
Well, look, I mean, and not every coach is willing to put themselves out there for that ribbing, that good-natured ribbing from colleagues and coworkers and things like that. But you set up at the media day at the Titans, and we're going to go to some clips from that a little bit later on. You know, it's about promoting the kids and getting the kids out there, celebrating their achievements, celebrating their accolades, you know, and quite frankly, being a vehicle through which they can get some spotlight attention on them. And that's all part of the game now as far as getting them off to whatever they're going to do, whether it be on the football field or, as we talked in the first episode, if they want to get into the broadcast side.
Yeah, you know, like you said, the Titans media day, it was top notch, and there was a lot of schools there, and there was a lot of media people out there, media outlets there, and they set it up, and it was like you said, it was a great opportunity. You know, the guys were able to speak to the media, do some interviews, and you know, now when during the season when they get interviewed, that won't be the first time they've been interviewed. Is after a game. They've already had some experience, and like you said, the game has changed, and it's more social media and getting videos out and promoting your kids. And this is another opportunity. Our kids' names can get out there in the public view, and people be able to watch it and know a little bit more in depth about the Riverdale Warriors.
Well, that's what we're all about. I want to start with some of the new things that we didn't get to in episode 1. We talked about some of the new faces that you've got on the team. We're going to dig into the offense and defensive sides of the football in this episode. But some of the new amenities out there at Tom Nolan Field, Phil Watts Tomahawk Stadium, a brand new Jumbotron that's going to, I guess, debut in the final preseason game against Centennial. And, I mean, the old board wasn't that old, but when you add a video board to the mix, now you're talking.
Yeah, you know, it's been a long-term goal that we set out that we eventually wanted. And the last year, you know, with getting the turf in, we just didn't feel like it was the time. We didn't want to press it and rush that project. And this offseason, Richard Gibson, who's been with me for the last 6 years, and he's kind of spearheaded all these projects and just works hand in hand with investors, with people that's committed to helping out with the project. To whether it's just like right now, he's out here and we're having to dig a hole for the play clocks, you know, so he's helping that get situated with some other parents and things like that. And he's helping take care of that. So, you know, the video board is going to be huge. Like you said, the scoreboard that previously had, it wasn't that old. I think we got it in 2017. It's still in good condition, but, you know, adding a video board and like we talked on episode 1, having more kids involved and being able to help produce, you know, different things for the video board, whether it's a commercial or just some type of sponsorship, or it's an interview, maybe it's some type of sideline interview during the game, or, you know, it's the possibilities of what we can do with that video board is endless. You know, we talked about yesterday during practice how we can start implementing our scout cards on the video board during practice. So it's going to help us. It's going to be just another advantage, a plus to being here at Riverdale.
And not only athletically, but, you know, I've seen other schools utilize them to promote at halftime and between quarters upcoming plays that might be going on at the school or concert events, and they can put the QR code right up there, let people get their tickets. So it really serves the entire school and can promote those other activities.
Yeah, it can be used valuable resource to give out a lot of information. Starting here in about a week, we'll have a freshman or a JV game here at the stadium on Monday. Tuesday we'll have some type of middle school football game. Wednesday or Thursday we'll have soccer games. So that's, and then obviously Friday's football. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for people to see, and obviously there's going to be plenty of sponsorships available for people to use and to be able to promote their businesses. But also it's going to be a valuable resource to give out just any kind of information, whether it's about the archery team, the track team, the drama club, anything can go on that board, and we can give information out during our games.
And the sponsorships are available. I know folks can contact the quarterback club. They can get in touch directly with you. So a lot of ways to be a part of all the exciting things that are going on at Riverdale. But the board is just one of the new additions. I have not seen them turned on yet, but there's a whole new LED lighting system on the field as well, I understand.
Yes, there is. We got new lights and LED lights, and you can do the blinking and flashing. And Mr. Limbaugh was working yesterday with trying to time up some music with the flashing lights, and he's working with the company. So there's a lot of people that plays in to the Friday night production. I've already talked about Richard Gibson and David Limbaugh. Both of them have been huge, huge for me for the last 10 years. And Mr. Limbaugh, he takes care of everything up in the press box between the seating charts. I don't even know or know some of his rules or guidelines and what goes on because he does such a good job and people respect him in this county. And I'm proud to have somebody like that along with me.
Well, I mean, it is. It's a huge team effort to put it on. You've got a big coaching staff, of course, and then there's all those auxiliary people that run the concessions on a Friday night. They run the ticket booths. You've got cheerleaders. You've got band. We're going to cover all of that as we go along this season, give them some opportunities for some interviews. We'll also have that content during our game broadcasts as well. So at halftime, we'll have interviews with student spotlight players and a lot of good things coming up. As far as the newness, I mean, turf is a year old, new lights, new scoreboard. You've got the field house, new uniforms, I think, this year as well, correct?
Yeah, we got the new white uniforms this year.
And I saw those were out on media day. Kids had their pictures taken in them. I don't know what else a high school athlete might be looking for in 2025, given all of those amenities.
No, yeah, I know. That's what I've had some kids that was around in 2016 and 17 stopped by the other day, and they were like, "Coach, these kids are spoiled," and we've tried to provide them with a lot of opportunities, whether it's the weight room, the locker room, our meeting room, to the practice field, to the game field, now to the school boards. We want to provide them that ultimate high school experience, and we're trying to treat this like we're a small college, and going out and fundraising and providing, giving these kids these opportunities, and try to give them one of the best experiences they can have when they come here.
Well, and that's the thing I've said for the past several years. High school football today is like college football was at small colleges anyway when I was there way too many years ago. That's what it is now, and I think Riverdale's doing a fantastic job at keeping pace because, look, several other schools in Rutherford County have added that Jumbotron this year, and so it's always keeping up with that. As we turn our attention to the focus of today's show, folks, I want to remind you, you can subscribe on Aero Sports TN on YouTube. You can follow us there, subscribe so you never miss an episode of The Will Kriesky Show. New episodes will air every Thursday night at 6. You can find them there on the archives. And then we'll have a replay before every regular season game as part of our countdown to kickoff. That'll start at 6 o'clock on Friday nights, going right into our pregame show at about 6:35 and then leading up to kickoff at 7. So be sure and subscribe there. Or if you want the audio broadcast, you can find that on aerosports.mixlr.com. Let's start in with the defense, Coach. We were talking first episode about the number of all-region honorees that left the program, but you've got some good ones coming back. First up, we've got Aiden Edmonds, your linebacker. He was at Media Day with you, and I want to play a little spot from that from earlier this summer up at Nissan Stadium.
It's a good community event. I mean, you see all the teams. Middle Tennessee has really good football. So we have over 53 teams here today. And that says a lot about these coaches to bring their kids here, get their kids exposure, and then get them experience to have this type of interview. I mean, this is set up like a college, just like college media day. And this is awesome for these kids and all these coaches to bring their kids and spend time and teach them lessons. Aiden's never sit in front of the camera like this and had interviews or Corbett, and they've talked to 3 or 4 different media outlets today, and it's been good experience for them. Anything we can do to help our athletes in Rutherford County to get promoted, it's all about the kids and us coaches. I think in Rutherford County, all the head coaches and their staff realize it's about the kids, and any way we can promote them and bring them success for their future, we're all about it.
We love our program. We have seen new guys coming in, helping and everything, so it's good.
Aiden's been with us, 4 years. This is going into his senior year, and he's been a guy. We talked about it on the way up here. I've been really hard on Aiden, but, Aiden, I expect very good things out of Aiden this year. I have very high expectations out of him, and, he's a guy that we're going to have to count on Friday nights on the field. We're not on the field with them, and they have to take the personality of their coach. And, that's what I try to instill at him. And that's what, Aiden has accepted that challenge. This offseason was really hard on him, but he never wavered. He said, yes, sir, and kept working. There are things, the minute things I would get on to him about, and I know it was wearing on him, but he never wavered. And he's accepted our culture and bought into the culture, and now he leads our culture. And that's what, when things go wrong or something's not going right, I go to him for help.
And a lot of the same as last year, coming in a good unit, making a lot of plays, stopping a lot of teams, definitely.
That was Aiden Emmons and Coach Kriesky up at Media Day. And Coach, Aiden's really the quarterback of your defense, a defense that in the first scrimmage against Franklin pitches a shutout. He's trying to not only pick up where last year's stellar defense left off, he wants more, he says.
Yeah, he does. He takes pride on the defense side of the football, and he takes pride. He don't want people to score. He gets upset when they get first downs of 4 or 5 yards, but that's a good mentality to have, and he strives to make sure our defense is prepared and ready to go, and he takes care of those guys up front, and deep from the front seven, and he does a good job communicating with them, getting them lined up, make sure they get the calls, and they're playing and progressing like they need to be.
But he's not the only returner. Jar Morris is back. You've got Elijah Reams, Hudson Fuquay's back. How has the defense evolved from last year, in your opinion, with some of these new guys filling in to maybe not take on a starting role? Maybe they had that last year, but now they've got that leadership role as well.
The 3 guys you just named are all leaders also. They do a good job in everything we do. And Czar, he's just Czar. Czar's consistent. He's just one of the good kid to coach. He doesn't talk, doesn't say much, but and he's accepted a role of a leader, but he doesn't do it. He never does it like vocally. It's all just by his actions, and we have to tell him. We were running a 7-on-7 drill, and the receiver, like Czar, had a chance to to lay out the receiver, and Coach Rail started yelling Czar, 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 because he wanted him to take care of our own guy. But that's just how he is. He just practices hard all the time. Hudson Fuqua, he's one of the smartest kids on the team. I'm talking about just X's and O wise. He knows the defense inside and out. He knows the offense inside and out, and he does what he's coached to do. And he's always flying around, and he's able to fly around on the practice field and the game field because he knows exactly what to do, and he studies the game of football.
Well, when I saw him at Media Day with Hudson, he stands out in a crowd. I mean, he looks like a collegiate player to me, and I mean, he looks muscular. He's fast. He looks like he's got all the tools.
Yeah, Czar does, and he's gotten better every year, and he's kind of just been that sleeper. A lot of these college guys that's come in, they really like him, and he's went to a few camps this summer, so I think he'll have an opportunity to go and play at the next level, just with his consistency. And like you said, he's a very good athlete that can kind of be deceiving. And then Elijah Reams, he's coming to the talking to the vocal part of the leadership role, and he's done a really good job being vocal and being that vocal leader on the defensive side.
The defense did a good job with that against Franklin because, again, we're recording this prior to the Summit scrimmage due to some other commitments with travel that's not allowing us to have the Summit scrimmage in play for this broadcast. But against Franklin, they pulled off a few times when they had some open hits on a quarterback and things like that. That would have been a penalty, I think. But also there's a price to be paid if you hit that quarterback in a scrimmage setting. Some price going to be paid on the other side probably too.
Yeah, and in scrimmages we keep the quarterback. We don't really go after the quarterbacks, and rightfully so. But they did a good job of doing what they're supposed to, and they Aiden has that mentality, man. When Coach Rail sends him on a blitz, he's going. and he's going to make sure somebody knows that he came, and somebody knows that he was coming full speed after the quarterback, and that's what he does, and that's how he plays, and that's just his style of football.
Linebacking core and DBs often get a lot of the attention when we talk about defenses. Something I noticed Friday night, though, was the control of the line of scrimmage by your defensive front, which allowed those linebackers to just flow to the football. It seemed as though, from our perspective, that Franklin's O-line was a little overwhelmed by your defensive front. Did you see it that way?
Yeah, I mean, we got an experienced defensive front. Anthony Gunn, he's been playing for 3 years for us, going to his fourth year. He got a lot of reps as a freshman before he hurt his foot. He sprained his foot his freshman season, and then you got Caleb Woods, consistent year number 2 with us, and Caleb's getting better every year and doing what he's supposed to be doing and flying around. And we got Jordan Bowen playing some nose for us, and Jaron Hollins doing well, and both those guys have done what coaches asked them to do. And then you got Julius Malden also, who's come in this summer to us, and he's doing really well with up front with those guys.
Defensively, in terms of the scheme that you run, anything different this year? Are the kids, I know, particularly offensively, when you make changes or they have to learn a new system, that can take some time. Any updates or changes on the system this year?
I mean, Coach Will do some different. He always adds a different wrinkle or two in the defense every year, but nothing schematically that just changing everything crazy. He's still gonna run what he does on Friday night. He's been successful at what he does, and he'll add a couple wrinkles here or there, and with his install that'll add a new piece to his puzzle.
And the other part of the defense, it seems like you've got some good depth there. We saw a lot of players in that first scrimmage, so it looks like you've got, with over 100 guys on the roster, it looks like you've got some good depth.
Yeah, we do. We got some really good depth, and the guys up front, I think is the most biggest depth. As we get back to the secondary, not as much depth as we'd like right now, but we got guys working up towards that. But yeah, we do feel comfortable with our depth issue, especially in the front seven.
Reminder that sponsorships are available not only for the new Jumbotron out at Tom Nolan Field, but also here on the Coach Will Kriesky Show. If you're interested in those sponsorships, get in touch with the Quarterback Club, get in touch with us directly, and we can hook you up with that and get your sponsor logo as part of the Will Kriesky Show. Proceeds on that can benefit the program. I know that there are all kinds of expenses involved for the needs when you have a roster of 103 varsity players. You've got 50 plus on the freshman team. Just equipment and snacks and food take up some key money.
Yeah, it does. Just every little thing you need, just knee pads, mouthpieces, and it all adds up. And helmets, and helmets 400 something plus a pop. So it is expensive. But again, we've had good people that's always stepped up and been willing to help. And when you got this many kids playing football, it says good about your coaching staff and administrators and everybody that they want to be a part of something. Because football's tough, football's hard, and these last few weeks out here in the heat hadn't been easy, but these guys keep coming and keep coming with a smile on their face, ready to work.
Well, the defense had a good performance in that first scrimmage. When we go to our next episode before the Knoxville Catholic game, we will talk a little bit about how the preseason wrapped up and preview more of these guys, and we'll have highlights of them throughout the year. As we turn our attention over to offense, you talk about guys coming out wanting to be a part of something. You brought Corbin Reynolds up to Media Day, and he's a transfer from Loretto. Won a state championship as an undefeated basketball player with Loretto last spring, and decided he wanted to come out to Riverdale and be a part of what's going on with the Warriors. Made that move, caught the first touchdown of the preseason. He was there with you at Media Day. This is what he had to say up at Nissan Stadium.
I didn't care with the mentality, because even there'd be games where it's close, we may be down, and I just never thought we were going to lose. It's just like, I haven't lost in so long. I don't know the feeling anymore. I can't lose anymore. That's what it feels like. I just do what the team needs to win. If it's a great catch, maybe it's just a normal catch, just a hitch, a goal, whatever we need to win, I just want to do that, help the team out. I'm looking to compete, go win big games. Just I want to see how it feels being out there, like Oakland. I mean, all my fans are telling me how big the games are, how deep it is. I want to see what that feels like.
When you bring in a guy that's won a state championship, 38-0, and says, I don't even remember what it's like to lose anymore, how does that mental awareness, that mental approach impact the whole team?
Yeah, Corbin's been a great addition. His family moved up here to Murfreesboro, and He's living, like right down the street. So he's right here in Rutherford County, in the community, in Riverdale community, and he's a quiet leader, and he just works really hard. And he does what everybody asks him to do. He'll go up and make those tough catches. He'll run in the middle and be physical with those guys and those linebackers. And his physical presence, and like you said, just his mentality and how he goes about himself and how he works, has been very impressive.
When you have so many kids coming in, new kids transferring in, we talked a little bit about Ja'Kai Bonner-Brown last week. Corbin's one of those transfers. It also requires those guys who have been there to embrace those players, and understand what they can do to help make the team better. And I think that from what I've seen, your veterans have done that pretty well in embracing the new players.
Yeah, they do. They all do a good job. Again, it's different times and things, and kids do move around, and kids do bounce around, and they know, as long as the kid comes in here, works hard, and buys into our culture, then our kids, accept them and they kind of buy in with them. And you gotta do things like how we do it. It's not every program's not the same, and the way we do it's not the 100% correct way. It's everybody does things their own way, and when guys come in, they have to totally buy into your program for the teammates to buy into them.
And Corbin's just one of the weapons that Coach Barnes has offensively to turn to. You've got a lot of receivers out there. Chris Peters caught a touchdown from Jake Rowling, your backup quarterback, late in the Franklin scrimmage. We saw Jacob Vaughn break off a 48-yard touchdown run. He ran away from people. And really, he was able to break through the line because he was untouched. The offensive line opened up big holes. Let's talk about the guys down front a little bit. You've got an experienced offensive line with some very good talent.
Yeah, we do. We got some guys that played there last year. Dakari King, he was our starting center last year, and he's going to be a junior, and we expect him to have a good year. And Elijah Clark, another guy that started last year. He missed his sophomore season due to an injury, but he's a big physical presence. We've moved him from tackle to guard, and he can bounce around. He's versatile, and he can play on the right or left side, and that's just him with his experience and knowledge of the front, offensive front. LeBron Shelburne, he's another kid that's another 2-year starter with us, and we're expecting big things from him. And he's had a good year last year, but we need him to improve and keep getting better. But, like you said, that front, man, that's huge for us. And Avante Morris, he's another kid that he played some, started some games, and didn't start some. He rotated with the senior up front, but he does have some game experience. And then finally, Hayden Love, he's another guy that's in the rotation for the mix, and he's done very well at guard, and he's getting better every week. And we just have to have those guys keep improving, because when Knox Catholic comes in here, they're going to be big, physical, and fast up front, and we gotta be prepared for that.
Well, and you talked about the consistency. Just need to be consistent. You have one good day, and then you take a step back maybe. That was back in mid-July when we were up at Media Day. Have you seen the consistency improving? I know it's not going to be exactly where you need it to be yet, but is it getting closer?
Yeah, we've had some good days again this week, and started off not so good. But again, it's just odd. It takes a while this time of year. You going from transition of morning practice to afternoon practice to half a day of school to a full day of school. And so we're going through our first full day of school. So kids, they got to it takes them a day to get adjusted, but they are resilient. They get adjusted quick. But just getting tilted, thrown off their schedule a little bit kind of messes with them.
That receiving group, we talked about Chris Peters, we talked about Corbin Reynolds, but with the number of weapons that Coach has got there to choose from, I don't know if there's enough football to go around.
That's what you got to tell them all the time. There's only one football, and there's plenty of kids that can touch the ball and have success for us. You hadn't talked about Riley Talley. He's had a good preseason for us and catching the ball really well for us. And Luke Trich has also been catching the ball really well for us. And Cody Lewis is, he's hampered right now due to a hamstring, but he's caught the ball well for us. And Zayden Jones, who plays a lot on corner and exceptional corner, comes over some and also plays some offense. And Jalen Waller keeps getting better every week. So there is a lot of guys, and when you can name that many guys, what the good thing is those guys have to come to practice every day. You know what I mean? They don't get to just relax, and they know that they got quality guys behind them, so they're always working to earn their spots. and the competition only makes you better, and that's what we got to practice with our receiving corps is competition.
Look, I've watched some of Luke Trich's highlights. He does not look like a freshman.
No, he doesn't. He plays older than what he is, and it's pretty impressive for what he does for a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah, and then Zayden, I believe it was Zayden who laid out one of the bone-crunching hits against Franklin defensively. But, yeah, another weapon on that offense. And that competition piece, you're exactly right. It's only going to make the squad better.
Yes, it is.
All of those receivers, though, need somebody to get them the football. And you went from Malachi Tellen last year, who had a fantastic season. I know you were sorry to see him graduate from a football perspective, but excited to see what his future would hold for him. You brought in a transfer who moved over to the Murfreesboro area, a transfer out of Ravenwood, and that's Gavin Hampton. And he had a good first scrimmage by my view. Not only was he delivering the football with pace, it looked like, and touch when needed. There was a touchdown through he put in the end zone that could have been a touchdown. It went off the fingertips of the receiver. But his decision-making seems pretty rapid in the pocket. He's not going to stand there for too long, and he's going to make a quick decision. Is that accurate?
Yeah, he does a good job going through his progression and his reads, and then he makes a quick decision. And he's got a good arm, and it comes out fast. And you can tell he's been working a lot this offseason and improving and trying to get better. And what now? He's just got to make sure he knows the ins and outs with Coach Barnes and the offense, so he can help other guys improve and other guys get better. But he did have a quick release, and his pocket presence is very, very impressive at his, not ever being able to starter.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I knew him when he was at Ravenwood, and I've got a picture of him at a Vanderbilt camp next to my son, who goes 6'6", 300 pounds about at the time, and Gavin's down. He's put on size, he's put on muscle, and I was surprised when I saw him in person back in the springtime for the first time since that couple years ago. He's really grown in to his body that way.
Yeah, he's a big kid and a big quarterback, and he can move well. He runs the ball well, and I know he's played some basketball in the past, and I know he can dunk a basketball, but he's very athletic quarterback.
Offensively, the team wants to throw the football, but we mentioned that running. We talked about Jacob Vaughn. We talked about Ja'Kai Bonner-Brown. That's really going to open up the passing game. When you can lean on a couple of backs like that, you can't cheat it. You can't drop those guys back, or the backs are going to rip off some big runs.
Yeah, and you got to keep it balanced. And like you said, like you start focusing on the pass, it just gives opportunities for our running backs. And our offensive line is experienced enough to have some success up front. And so you got to pick your poison. And Coach Barnes and Gavin and all those guys are working hard so they can have success on the offensive side. And we just got to keep improving and kind of keep getting to know each other. And that's what's tough. These kids have. Some of them's only been around each other for a few weeks, if not a few months. So they got to keep working the kinks out and working through things.
This episode will air just before the Centennial scrimmage. It'll wrap up the preseason. That'll be the home game out at Tom Nolan Field, Phil Watts Tomahawk Stadium. Coach, do you do anything differently with the last preseason game in terms of how you rotate your players getting ready for the season opener?
No, we'll still, the starters will start out with the scrimmage, and then we may rotate a little bit quicker than we have on the other two scrimmages, but we try to keep it as much as a game like, because the first game is different, so you try to keep everything as game like, and penalties and mouthpieces and knee pads covered up and jerseys tucked in, and you want to make sure substituting that the kids are paying attention and kids are situational when things happen or sudden change, that they're focused on the sideline and they're ready to go.
We will not have coverage of the Centennial scrimmage due to some travel arrangements that were scheduled for me before we got this partnership off the ground. But then we will be back for the season opener against Knoxville Catholic. We'll have another episode of the Will Kriesky Show, of course, and we'll have that season opening kickoff at 7 o'clock, preceded by the countdown to kickoff, which will be live at 6:35 from Tomahawk Stadium. And we'll have a replay of this Coach Will Kriesky Show previewing Knoxville Catholic at 6 o'clock on that Friday night after it premieres on Thursday night. Coach, thanks again this week. Look, I think the sound was better on this one. I think we got the mic issues straightened out.
I think so. I think we got it worked out.
And we've already got some subscribers on the show. Be sure and like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And we will talk to you next time. Be brave, be bold, be ever loyal, Warrior fans. For Coach Will Kriesky, I'm Chris Bosen. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Coach Will Kriesky Show. We'll talk to you next time. Good night.
This is the Coach Will Kriesky Show, a weekly showcase of highlights, interviews, and insights from Riverdale head football coach Will Kriesky. This is Riverdale football. All hail.